Welcome back. Today we're doing lesson 41. We are on page 6. Three different things we're doing today. We're working with zero exponents, then we're multiplying, then we're dividing, actually monomials. It says polynomial, but we're focusing on monomials. So let's pick out a color. I'm feeling brown. We're going to start with zero exponents. So anything with a zero exponent is a 1. So 2 to the 0 is a 1. 342 to the 0 is a 1. So any number with an exponent of 0 equals 1. Well, why? So I'm just going to make up an example. Let's say we have 3 squared. What that is equal to 3 times 3, okay, and you get 9. If we have 3 to the 1, that means you just have 1 3. If we have 3 to the 0, we don't have any 3s. But in every case, we can always multiply a number by 1, and it wouldn't change the value. So in this case, if we have an exponent of 0, it's always going to be a 1. Same thing if you have a letter, x to the 0, that's a 1. Now, I just want to give you one more example. 3x to the 0. So 3x to the 0, we have 3. X to the 0 is 1. We're going to do some more practice on this over the next couple of days. Now we're going to get into our steps. I'm going to do examples first, and then we'll go back to the first page and fill that in at the end. What we're doing here is we're multiplying. So I'm going to zoom in, write down the steps for when you multiply. 2 things. Multiply, the vocabulary word is coefficients. In the previous lesson, we were adding them. Now we're multiplying your coefficients. And instead of the exponents staying the same, we are adding the exponents. So what I'm planning on doing is, in this video, doing the first column, which my pages got a little bit messed up. And then you are going to finish the column on your own. That's going to be like a homework that you have to do, and we'll check to see how you did. So in this case, for question 3, we have a squared times a to the 6th. Now, if you wanted to multiply the coefficients, I lost my pen, they're actually invisible ones. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Now, the reason why you add, the first one I have is a squared, okay? The next one I have is a squared. And then the last one I have is a to the 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you put all those a's together, you get a to the 10. That's why when you're multiplying, you add your exponents. Now for question 5, we have 2 letters. So you add your e exponents together. So that's e to the 4, and f to the 4 times f to the 2 is f to the 6. And that's it. I'm going to move to the next page because my pages are messed up. So multiply your coefficients. 4 times 3 is 12. Now this first one doesn't have an exponent that you see, but remember there's always an invisible one. So when you add your exponents, you get x to the 4, and the y exponents, y to the 8. Now this one's a little tricky. This 10 is a base, okay? So we have 10 squared. But there's a 3 on the outside, so that means we have to write this 3 times. So because the 10 is a base, that basically is taking the place of the variable, so that doesn't change. We have 10, and now add your exponents, 2, 4, 6. 10 to the 6th is actually 1 million. Now number 11. We have 3, I hate P's and Q's, P to the 1, Q to the 1. Oops, I'm sorry, Q squared. And we do this twice, so I'm going to write it twice. 3P to the 1, Q squared. Multiply your coefficients and add your exponents. So 3 times 3 is 9, P squared, Q to the 4. And I think that's it for multiplying. Now we're going to look at dividing. I want to cross this one out for now. I don't want to go there yet. So when you multiply your coefficients and add your exponents. When you divide your coefficients and subtract exponents. Just making sure I'm recording. You know you're dividing when you have a fraction. A fraction bar means you're dividing. So I have this bar. Now here's a little bit of a trick. Actually, before we do the trick, I'm going to write this out the long way, expanded form. So if you look on the top here, I have 3 R's. 1, 2, 3. 2 S's. And when you have letters touching each other, that just means they're being multiplied together. On the bottom, I have 1 R and 2 S's. So when you're multiplying, you're putting them together. When you're dividing, you're crossing off the matches on the top and the bottom. So I'm left with 2 R's on the top. So I say R squared. And then if you want to play a placeholder in the denominator, you put a 1 there. So when you subtract your exponents, you put your answer where the bigger exponent is. Pretty tricky stuff. So here's my fraction bar. W to the 4 over W squared. You subtract 4 minus 2, and you get W squared. U to the 3 divided by U to the 2. When you subtract your exponents, you get U to the 1, or just a U. And there's your answer. You could put a 1 under that as a denominator, but you don't have to. Okay. Whoops. For this problem, we're going to divide our coefficients. 32 divided by 8 is negative 4. X to the third over x to the 1 is x squared. Y squared over y to the 1 is y to the 1. And then subtract your z's, and you get z to the 3. Now, this is tricky. We're going to spend some extra time on this in the future during class. But if you have a negative exponent, that is illegal. You have to move it to the other side of the fraction. So this would become h to the 3 and then h to the 6 right next to it. So when they're on the same side of the fraction, you add them. Problems aren't a lot of work, but they sure are tricky. Okay, so we have 48 divided by negative 6. So I'm going to put a negative 8 on the top because that's where the bigger number is. Now let's look at this x. X to the 6 over x to the 1. Subtract the exponents, you get x to the 5. Do the same with the y, and you have y to the 2. Now here's where it's a little tricky. Look at your z's. 6 minus 5 is z to the 1. Your bigger z exponent's on the bottom, though. So that answer goes down there. Do we have any more? Okay. 25. Divide. So we have a 6. I'm going to put that on top because 24 is bigger. And now we're going to subtract our c's. C to the 5 and c to the 2. So you get 3. I'm going to put this down here on the bottom because the 5 is bigger than the 2. And that's your answer. Now for 27, when you do 5 over negative 4, it doesn't simplify. That's all it is, 5 over negative 4. These C's cancel. And then when you subtract your D's, 3 minus 1, you get D squared on the top. So we'll do 29 and 31, and then you guys can finish the rest. So always do big exponent minus smaller exponent. So 15 minus 9 is 6. Bigger exponent's in the denominator, so you put your answer down here. You must put a 1 for a placeholder on the top. Last one together. So we have 9 divided by 3 is 3. Put your answer on the bottom, bigger number. 8 to the 4 over 8 to the 7 is 8 to the 3 on the bottom. And then do your B's. 2 minus 1 is 1. Put your B on the top. So next, in the next video, we will work on when you have parentheses with extra exponents. Oh, before I forget, let's go back to our page 1. And now we're going to fill in the box that says multiply and divide. So again, page 1. So pause this video, copy these boxes down, and then I'll meet you back for some more practice.